There was some questions in the chat, though, between Eli and Leon talking about how they love Atlanta's roster and that they're sort of built for a trade. And the Hawks are fascinating in that regard because they had a great offseason by virtue of doing very little. Keeping John Collins is huge. Getting Jang when Onyeka Okongwu is injured is a big deal. I really like DeLon Wright for them. So I think they maintained without doing anything like huge. And then I don't know that Miami was the only team in the East that dramatically improved. And they're not, if you even think they're better than the Hawks, they don't look worlds better. However, and the Hawks are getting, by virtue of internal growth through health, is what happens if Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter both stay healthy. That becomes
Let's not forget DeLon Wright too.
I mentioned him already at the top, I believe. But where was I going? So, but they are, as I believe it was Eli mentioned, is that you look at all these players with Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, not Onyeka Okongwu right now, but the Capella, Collins, Okongwu stuff, like that's going to become a question when Capella is going to be a year out from free agency after this season. If there's a trade or if there's a star that becomes available, I don't know which star it is. I think we've actually had this conversation loosely. Their roster is built, and they have all their own picks. Their roster is built for consolidation at this point. They have nice mid-tier salaries to throw out as matching tools. I wouldn't be the team that goes after Bradley Beal. I wouldn't be the team that went after even a Zach LaVine. I just don't know if the defensive infrastructure there can handle it. But if like Pascal Siakam's actually available, and I know this wasn't your favorite Ben Simmons fit, but like I don't hate it as a Ben Simmons team.
I still hate that fit so much.
If it's minutes with John Collins, I don't hate it. If you're talking about minutes with Clint Capella, then yeah, there are issues there.
I actually am growing to like the Bradley Beal idea more and more. Like the defensive concerns are legitimate, but at least there is a defensive infrastructure now. At least you have multiple good defensive bigs. You have wing defenders in Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter. Granted, a few of those would most likely be moved to get Beal, but if you can upgrade from Kevin Huerter or Bogdan Bogdanovic at the 2 to Beal, and you have a Trae Young Beal backcourt, that is just flames on a nightly basis. And I think you can live with those defensive shortcomings because you still have so much depth of talent and you still have at least a few defensive pieces in support. But I do agree that right now I don't think that trade has to happen. It could be something that you think about mid-season if these pieces aren't all coming together. But as much as we like to look at these kind of rosters that do have a lot of movable pieces, the young players, their own draft picks, and could make that big swing, Atlanta just went to the Eastern Conference Finals and looked the part of an Eastern Conference Finals team. It has such a young core with so much potential internal improvement from the incumbents. Not sure that you need to go out and find that external star right now, even if the roster is conducive to doing so.
I do think they're at a point where they have to consider it by virtue of Kevin Huerter's extension eligible, Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter are up next season. And if they want to keep it together, that's fine and pay everyone. They're not going to pay everyone. Like that's just
no, they're probably not. So, I'd rather see a smaller move where maybe you're not acquiring a superstar, but if you have that like tier B, like maybe the level just below someone like Siakam, and you're floating Gallo and one of Hunter and Reddish and a pick to get him. Like that's the kind of smaller scale, still big move that I think Atlanta should be looking at rather than trying to blow up this core entirely by moving 2 young players and the picks.
Yeah, I wasn't advocating for them to do so. I more so think the fact that they're able to do whatever is huge. I would say, do you know who I love for this team? Brandon Ingram would be a guy. If you can get Brandon Ingram without giving up DeAndre Hunter, which I would insist on not giving him up in that deal, that team would be ultra scary.